All right, Ross McLean, crime security specialist, host of the McLean Chronicles podcast, joins us now. Hey, Ross, how are you?
I'm doing good. A strange topic to be talking about on this beautiful summer's day, I'll tell you that.
It is, and all we know it was imminent. We don't know whether that, or it was close, not imminent. What does that mean exactly? That it was days away, weeks away? We have these two jihadi radicals holed up in a hotel in Richmond Hill. The RCMP had been, I guess, tracking them since early July. They found them with a machete and some axes. They had targeted a specific group. I think we know who that group was in Toronto. What are your thoughts just on, first of all, the RCMP's announcement that after basically a month's investigation, they had arrested these two?
Well, it was interesting to all of a sudden see the name ISIS pop back up again. It was interesting to watch the RCMP pressers. I have to tell you, they give the most boring pressers of any police conference. That's pretty hard to get around. But, I mean, they take forever. They spend 5 minutes saying, we're all here, we're all great, let's introduce each other. They do it in French, they do it in English. Takes 40 minutes, but they only give about 5 minutes of information as opposed to what was actually happening. And what we're hearing is, like you said, some sort of imminent ISIS mass attack in Toronto. They had uncovered it, and they arrested both a father and a son for it. And it involves an axe and a machete and something imminent against some group. And Richard, maybe you've got more faith and more judgment than I do on this. They didn't name who the target was, but it leaves me to guess because, look, as a guy who does security work and protects people, I want to know, was this targeted against a Christian church, which ISIS has hit before? Was this targeted against a synagogue, which we've seen all the attacks going on in Toronto and around the world right now? Was this targeted against children? We saw an attack in the UK just a little while ago. We're not sure what it is. We don't really know to believe the police there or not, but 3 children were stabbed to death by a guy who went in there. What were these guys going to do with their axes and their machetes? I think we need to know so people can protect themselves or their loved ones a little bit better when we have this sort of activity imminent in Toronto.
Exactly. And, I mean, were there, are they part of a cell? Are there others involved in this plot? I mean, all we have are the two names, the father's son, Ahmed Faoud Mustafa El-Didi, 62, and his son Mustafa El-Didi, 26, charged with participation in the activities of a terrorist group identified as the Islamic State. Are there more? Again, very few details. I think we deserve, if we're going to protect ourselves, because Lord knows the authorities aren't doing a very good job, we need to be, forewarned and forearmed.
Well, here's a bit of detail that I saw reported on one other news channel here in Toronto. They're saying that the father was actually involved in a video. It was filmed in 2015 in the Middle East, in which this is what they're claiming. It's, I guess it's yet to be proven or what's going to come with it, that he was posing as an ISIS guy with the machete, hacking a person to death on the video. And this was the father that was supposedly involved with this. They're saying they don't know if the body was already dead or what they were doing. But that's some pretty serious bit of person to be carrying on with. And we hear that they got a machete and an axe in the sun, and they're going to do something here. And that it's an act of terror that they're charged with, Richard. They want to induce terror. Well, what were they going to do, and who were the targets? I think we kind of need to know. And to your point, any handlers? Was this sponsored? Did they do a video? I understand that there was a video of them with their axe and their machete in front of the ISIS flag. And was that their little manifesto to be posted after they died while they were taking people down like ISIS tends to do? I really think we got to know a little bit more. Their bail hearing is coming up on August the 1st. And Richard, I have to ask this half jokingly. Are they getting bail?
Yeah, that's a legitimate question. I mean, in this Monty Python, flying Monty Python circus that we're living in Canada, that has to be asked, that question. Are they going to qualify for bail? I mean, why not? All bets are off. The other thing is, these were citizens. They are citizens of this country. As you say, though, the connection between the father and this incident in Iraq. Apparently he was charged. My understanding was he was arrested and charged in Iraq for this incident. And then that's in 2015. And now he's a citizen here. Obviously, not taking his oath of allegiance to the country very seriously when he became a citizen. How does this, that's, I guess, where we have to go next. How does this happen? How does someone like this get vetted and approved for citizenship when obviously he's part of an Islamic medieval death cult and has somehow, recruited his son into this evil as well? Ross McLean stays with us, crime and security specialist, host of the McLean Chronicles podcast, back with more of our conversation in 3 minutes. Just cribbing on father and son's Toronto terror attack plan was advanced stages when thwarted, the RCMP allege. And according to the RCMP, the advanced terror plot was poised to reap a bloody harvest in Toronto. That's Brad Hunter writing in the Toronto Sun. The pair were alleged devotees of the Islamic State death cult. Ahmed Faoud Mustafa El-Didi, 62, and his son Mustafa El-Didi, 26, charged with participation in the activities of a terrorist group identified as the Islamic State. They were arrested in a hotel in Richmond Hill. And RCMP said that they did have a particular community in mind to target. And I think it's irresponsible for them not to mention that target, that community, so that whoever it is being targeted can take measures, security measures. Ross McLean is with us, crime and security specialist, host of the McLean Chronicles podcast. I think that's a perfect question you asked. Are they going to be eligible for bail? In a serious country, we know the answer. It would be no. But here, an unserious country, who knows what the hell is going to happen? The fact that they were citizens and that they were able to get into this country, first of all, and then apply for citizenship and get approved. Rhetorically, I ask, what does that say about our immigration process?
Well, it says exactly what it says. It seems to be for sale, Richard. It's funny. One of the things, on my podcast, you can find me on YouTube at the McLean Chronicles podcast. I actually did one about when Trudeau accused Prime Minister Modi of murdering a Canadian citizen? It was the terrorist guy that was out on the East Coast who guess what? He was a Canadian citizen too, and he came in with terrorism knowledge in his background. And we're all looking at it later saying, how did this guy get into the country? Well, it seems that if you're the right person with the right amount of money and the right connections, you can get citizenship in this country. And look at what's going on. Like, we're becoming a little haven for terrorists here. We just exported one terrorist over to Israel, tried to stab some IDF soldiers. They took the guy out for doing it. We've had all the car thefts. I don't know how many of your listeners right now, Richard, on the radio have had their cars stolen or their neighbor's car stolen. Guess what? A lot of that goes to funding terrorism. That's where the money goes for that. Hezbollah used to steal cars all the time to raise money for terrorism. And you have the Khalistani network that's working here, raising money for terrorism and sending it back. So they send the people over, they get their citizenship here, they export their country's problems over here, and in this case, the violence of ISIS, right into our community. And we're really becoming a bit of a joke for dealing with it, Richard. That's all I can say, especially on the monetary end for it. The money that gets laundered through Canada is ridiculous. They just had a massive money laundering trial about 3 years ago out in Vancouver. They did a report on it, and the report ended up saying, look, we've looked at Canada. You got all kinds of rules and laws and absolutely zero enforcement around money laundering. It's a joke. So why do we have terror here? I guess because we're letting it get in here.
Right. We have, how many, what's the number now? Did I read 700 members with allegiances to the Iranian Republican Guard, a terrorist group? Finally, they've been designated a terrorist group. They're running around in free reign. And we see some of these jokers show up at protests, shouting their allegiance to the mullahs and that repressive regime. We're importing these people into this country. Political correctness be damned. We need a moratorium, and we need to put a moratorium on immigrants coming from certain regions of the world until we can get a handle on this. What are your thoughts?
Well, look, what are we bringing in? Was it 3,000 or 5,000 people from Gaza?
Yeah, 3,000 visas. Yeah, which I think includes family members, right?
Yeah, now, let's be honest about this. You can read any book about what goes on in Gaza. I mean, I just read the biography a while ago of the son of Hamas, and he talked about how he was raised in Gaza, how everybody was raised. And you know what? That's your raising. You hate Jews, you kill Jews, you want to kill Jews. Jews are scum. That's what you're raised to do. That's what you live with. So you come over here. You change that? That drops. You don't do it. No, you go with your raising, how you were raised, sort of thing. So there's difficulty when you have people who haven't been raised to operate in our country and in our culture, our Judeo-Christian culture. I mean, on is it the lighter side? We've got now the stories of people who think it's okay to defecate in the street because guess what? That's okay back where you're from. I mean, I dare say, and I'm not trying to be bad about it, you drop me in any country with my culture, they'd probably be ticked at me after a while for the way I behaved and what I asked for and what I did if I didn't really fit in with it. So you can't be bringing people in. You're setting them up for losing. You're setting them up for losing the people, and you're really harming the citizens of Canada when you swamp it like this with people who aren't ready to fit in or who don't want to fit in or don't know how to fit in.
Exactly. I was speaking with Tom Korski from Blacklock's Reporter earlier, talking about this story, how the Immigration Department has lost track of 500,000, as many as 500,000 undocumented foreigners or illegals in this country. And we don't know who they are. We don't know where they are. In fact, some of them were brought in, illegals, to work during the pandemic. Again, they come into the country, they are illegal, and what were they doing? Some of them were hired to take care of our grandparents in long-term care facilities. These people came across Roxborough Road. We had no idea who these people were. They could have been Islamic State devotees, and they're taking care of our grandparents? This is absolutely insanity.
It is. We don't know who's coming in. And in some cases, the best case scenario is still a bad scenario, let alone the worst case scenario. If someone is coming over here with the idea that they're here to route this place for crime by, guess what? And this happens in some of these ethnic communities. Your listeners are going to know this. Guess what? Your girls are used for human trafficking and prostitution. Your young boys and students who come over here are turned into drug dealers and drug runners and issues like that. They get abused when they come over here by their own people setting them up to what? Take the money to send it back to deal with terrorism. And it is becoming so widely accepted here. As Canadians, I think we're way too tolerant. We're way too tolerant about what's going on. I heard a quote the other day. Someone said, show me someone who's very, very tolerant, and I'll show you someone who doesn't have a strong set of values, because you just allow anything in.
Right,
and the reason why these people want to come to this country, they want to get away from that stuff in their country. The good people, and there's tons of good people. You know that. I know that.
Yeah. My concern is that where there's 2, there's 10, there's 100. God knows there's going to be more of these plots. Hopefully all of them are foiled, but it's only going to take one to get to get by the RCMP, and we're going to have a massive tragedy on our hands, and the blood will be on the federal government as far as I'm concerned. Your thoughts?
They're the one that are setting the rules to the game. And let me tell you, I got lots of issues with the way a lot of the police leadership is working these days, but I will tell you this. They don't have enough cops to deal with it. They're trying hard to hire right now. I was just talking to a guy who does recruiting. They can't find good people to be cops, believe it or not. They're wanting for it. They want them. They can't find good people.
Ross, how do we listen to the McLean Chronicles?
You can catch me. The best place is actually on my YouTube channel, on YouTube, McLean Chronicles Podcast. I'm also on X, where I cause a little bit of trouble on there from time to time and give my point of view. And I'm always looking out for everybody else. Like I say, I know the law enforcement side, but I want to help people to protect themselves so they don't suffer at the hands of terrorists, not responding and crying after we've lost somebody for it, Richard. So I thank you for the time on that.
McLean Chronicles on YouTube. All right, Ross, thank you so much for your insights as always.
Cheers.